Everybody, thank you for meeting today. Melly and Olu, can you hear us okay? Yeah, okay, cool. First order of business is approving the minutes from the March 31st meeting and the March 26th meeting. We'll put a motion for March 31.
Second.
May 26th. Motion.
Move approval.
Second.
Thank you guys. Okay, next item is update from OER Executive Director.
So I think going back to the three priorities of the commission, one being the local procurement preference, two, help me here, Deb. Idea to biz and innovation projects more generally, and three, advocacy for vacant retail, to use vacant city properties for economic development. And so first, maybe just Deb, if you want to update on the local procurement preference with the support of commission member Kim. Yeah, I'll have Deb kick it off.
Okay.
We can start.
No, Olin was here too.
Okay.
Okay.
Olu. Everybody. I think, we were emailing quite a bit during session. So we had a pig to work on. We will close out the pig at this point. So we were able to pass the local preference in procurement on our very first try, which is frankly most of the time unheard of. So Greg put in a lot of time, as well as Anthony Miranda here, who is our lobbyist for the city as well. And I know many of you also weighed in with the testimony and meetings, et cetera. So it went into effect on July 1. Greg is doing some outreach. We've been also working with the state procurement office on, there's a circular that goes out that makes it official, that goes to everyone who does procurement around the state, all the counties in the state. So that has gone out, issuing that guidance. And then they are working on the more formal administrative rules. And the plan is also, I learned there's a really fun thing called SpoCon, is that what it's called? It's like a procurement convention. It sounds like the geekiest of things. So SpoCon, I believe is what it's called, which is where all the procurement people get together for an annual conference, is happening in the fall, and they're planning to do like an education session as well on implementation at that point, because that's when all the procurement folks will be.
That's national or is local?
No, the local one.
Oh, I see.
Remember when we were talking with them?
Oh, I
It's
see.
like September, October. So kind of getting the word out, and then Greg has been doing some outreach as well.
I'll just add a few words. So yeah, we're all thrilled that it went through. We made it by 1 minute. I can tell you about more details later, but Ikaika Hussey had to run down the hall in order for us to make the time frame. But now, of course, implementation is the key, because apparently a lot of laws get passed and nothing ever happens to them. That's what I've learned. I didn't know that. I thought every law had a reason or champion. So we've done a Q&A, and I was just talking to Carrie yesterday from the procurement office that I was thinking, I think we should do workshops, have a sort of presentation and go around the state and talk about it. Also would include in that workshop, what are the government contracts that people should bid on? Because I don't think people even know about it. Most of them aren't. Lead them through that, the resources that they can use to find the contracts. And then what do you have to do to bid? So kind of like a how-to, and just kind of go around and get more people applying, that's going to automatically have a positive effect. And then if all things are equal, they'll win. The states and the counties are offering up to $500,000 preference for locals. So you could be $500,000 more than the mainland bidder and win, depending on the size of the contract. It's 5%.
Amazing victory.
Yeah.
Never happens in one session, but
Really amazing.
Greg, Deb, with the support of a lot of a coalition,
Mhm.
it passed in one session.
This group is action oriented, that was from day one. So
Yeah.
we just, do stuff.
Exciting. So yesterday, we
You guys were
hosted one of our last events, and that was an advanced manufacturing forum to connect some of the manufacturers here on this island with city departments that do need manufacturing, that do have parts that are either old or outdated, whether it's okay. on equipment, and some of those contractors, I let them know about the local procurement preference, that they might also have an opportunity. In the interim, Kui Hao, that was set up under the Hawaii Defense Alliance, under the Military Affairs Council of the Chamber. They're kind of the intermediary, and they'll continue to work when OER goes away with the connections that we've made with them, with the city departments that may need equipment, and hopefully might be able to be that bridge for when these local manufacturers have defense contracts or not, or have a Hawaiian Airlines contract or not. Is there an opportunity for some steady city work with different parts or equipment that they might need that local manufacturers can support? So there is a way to continue to see that work forward, and the local procurement preference was something that they were unaware of, and kind of excited that that could be an opportunity
Kind
for
of a
them
foot
to
in the
do
door.
more government work. Exactly. So the next priority, if you want to do a quick update, George, our
Oh,
fellow.
wait, before we jump in, I wanted to say, I raised my hand, so sorry. I'll lower it now. So I got that email from the chamber, which listed a bunch of things that they were in support of, which was awesome. But I recognize that, to the point earlier, people don't realize what a bill means and what it means for them in layman's terms. So I wonder, and I talked to Josh from Holomua, and there may be opportunity with some of our collective organizations to put it in layman's terms for different community types. Like, what does this actually mean? Which may be really opportunistic, in addition to, of course, the workshops and other communication to activate this awesome bill that got passed. So anyway, that's something that we're trying to work on as well, to help get this activated and really showcase the impact and getting people to utilize it.
Great.
That's all.
That's a great idea, Melanie. Thanks for sharing. George, in terms of OER update, he is going to continue his work through the end of October as an Economic Recovery Corps Fellow. He will, connecting him as we speak with the director, deputy, and the policy director over in the Department of Housing and Land Management, to continue working as he has been on the use of vacant city spaces for economic development. So quick update.
Sure. Yeah. For that piece, kind of gone inward, and it worked with DES and DHLM on re-architecturing the bill itself from the actual city ordinances, and rephrasing and actually essentially gutting it and building it up again. So it's out of my comfort zone, but it's an interesting challenge. So working with DES and DHLM right now, and taking the pause on going out to the public and trying to bring them into the city spaces to see who's interested, just because we want to kind of like polish up the Bill 35 to get it into the council. I'll be working with Gavin over at DHLM, and I'm excited to kind of keep the work going.
And I think there's been a huge opportunity for our Department of Housing and Land Management to move forward on affordable housing outside of a change chapter 38. And so there's been just other priorities for the deputy director, who was the key leader on this bill at the city council. And so what the director is looking at is what happens when the emergency proclamation on housing potentially goes away. We need some changes still within chapter 38. Our managing director knows, I think, that section of ordinance really well. So George is going to try to follow through on our commitment to support that. He's taking legal classes to make sure he gets legislative writing done and correct. But so that is still has some life and legs to it. And then finally, on the innovation projects, we are in the process of closing and wrapping up all programs in OER. So Idea to Biz is not planned to move forward again. And then our Small Bets project has been paid for and is underway with the money that you folks asked us to set aside for a Small Bets project. It's in Waipahu. And working with the community there at Safe Haven and others, they wanted to have a community garden for both youth and adults to learn how to garden, but also to have access to fresh local food. So we're doing that with our community equity team is doing that with CTAR. So they have the professionals out there with them, training the community. And hopefully they'll be able to follow through and continue. They haven't had like a grand opening yet. Hopefully those folks can keep you in touch when they launch officially this community garden. But that was kind of what resulted from the work around Olin and some folks with a small bets project to kick off some community engagement about what would they like to see for economic and community development in their community. So staff is here just to like, I don't know, kind of participate one last time. And the rest of this meeting, I hand back to the chair for the agenda.
Any questions, you guys? Questions? All right, new business. Krishna, I think this is you, discussion on the future of Economic Revitalization Commission.
Sure, thank you. Krishna Gair, I'm a managing director designate for the City and County of Honolulu. I'd like to start this off by thanking the commission and the commissioners for all the support of the agency you gave through the commission's existence, but also through this budget process. I hope it was clear to all of the commission that we thought this was a terrible idea, but we were unable to convince 6 of our colleagues on the city council. And so we are where we are. Functionally speaking, we're down to very few generally funded staff. And I apologize, because I'm not sure what you all know about what's going to happen to the people in the team.
I don't, that would be helpful,
Okay.
please.
So the way it ended up was that they kept the film office separate. That remains. And that's always sort of functionally acted separately anyway. So that's 3 people. They kept the 3 community equity liaisons. They funded the ag project manager and the small business project manager and the director. And they cut everything else. So
Which is how many people? 15, right?
A total of 18 positions.
17, 18 positions, yeah. And I don't know how much of the OER history you all want to hear or our position on this budget act that you all want to hear. So I apologize, 'cause I'm not sure what everyone knows about this. Our position was that OER does wonderful work. We disagreed with the audit. And even if the audit was correct, we disagreed with the cure that was being proposed, which was this drastic functional elimination of OER. We also argued that if you wanted to do this, the right way to do this was through a charter change. If you didn't think that this entity should exist this way, you should go to the charter and change it, and then take it out to the people, rather than doing it through the budget. They ultimately disagreed. So for the last several weeks, we've been talking about what to do with the personnel that we have remaining. We talked about, can we cobble together funds and make something work? And ultimately we decided, the council was very clear, they overrode a veto, which is unusual. So we were going to place all of the general funded positions in different departments. So for example, the community equity liaison positions, the 3 positions right now, the thought is that the 3 of them will go to Department of Community Services. The director of the department, Anton Krücki, is welcoming them, and the idea is they will continue the work that they had planned for this year, but in a different department. The ag project manager, there's a sort of a natural resting place with OCCSR, Office of Climate Change, Sustainability and Resilience. That director is also welcoming of this individual. And so the last one is the small business person. There isn't a sort of a natural home for that. So right now the proposal is that they will be absorbed within the managing director's office. So that's the short term, the wind down of OER. But then the question is what happens next, right? City council is very clear they didn't like what we had now and they took it away. And the truth is, we don't know yet how to build back. We have 6 council members. The underlying action was clear, but they all had different nuanced reasons for what they did. And so it's not like there's one clear vision that was given back to them and says, hey, you do these 3 things and we can make this good, because we asked them, you know, how do we make this right? And there was no answer. So, you know, when you all came onto the commission, the message I hope was always from the mayor and from us that it's an extension of our cabinet. This, you guys are our partners in this. You all are volunteers. You don't get paid anything for this. And we'd like to come back to you all once we have a better idea of what might be possible. And if you all have an idea or feedback on that, that's where we're at now. I don't have any clear answers on the long term. And I would blame none of you if this was such a distasteful experience that you want to have nothing else to do with us. I get that. I would get that as well. But yeah.
So just, and because we are not allowed to talk outside of the meetings, obviously, so just to update you guys also, I have been in constant contact with Amy and Mayor's staff since the beginning of this process, trying to help advocate where I can. I think Nani, you did some too, and probably I think Melly did. Olin, we've all taken our own roles and tried very hard to talk to council members as best we could. And yeah, there was not one clear, unified instruction. And so it's a very frustrating process. But so my question is, the other employees that were not funded, what happens with them?
So what's happening with them is we have our Department of Human Resources involved. They have sort of a recruiting team. And for whoever wants to stay, we're trying to figure out if there's a match between what they desire to do and a department that has a need. And so we're going to try to fast track those and get those figured out for people who don't want to leave. They leave. Or, I'm sorry, for people who don't want to stay, they leave.
When does the money run out, so to speak? They didn't fund the organization, so like, what happens when payday comes?
So in theory, the money runs out pretty soon, but we have, because OER was so critical during the pandemic and we did so many of their programs under ARPA, we have ARPA funds that we've repurposed to keep everybody going through the end of September. But the instruction from mayor and the reason we're doing this is by mid-August, we want to wind things down. Because right now, there's still programs out there that are sort of OER branded or OER is issuing things, and it's getting confusing and people are starting to ask us what's going on, why is OER still functioning when council cut them out? And so our goal is to wind everything down by the middle of August. And anybody who's on our team that's in the process of finding a job within the city will keep through the end of September because we have ARPA funding for that. That we can legitimately use for this purpose.
So I'm coming from a completely I don't know anything about how government runs or whatever, but
Sure.
you know, the function of OER, the function of a business, the function of anything that you want to get done, it starts with an idea and it takes time. And then, you know, if this was the private sector, we probably move a lot quicker, right? Because you get the idea and then we put the people in place and then we go. Given that reality and then the confinements of the way government and you know, all the powers that be that work, you know, I'm curious to see what the city council was expecting. Do you just gather a bunch of, you know, people, volunteers together and we have a staff and then we're, you know, supposed to make everything happen immediately and see results within a year, within 2 years? Because I think that that's what slows everything down. I mean, obviously if it was a business, things would have happened a lot quicker. So I guess my question is, you know,
as we regroup, and it sounds like some of the repurposing and, people going to different departments, make some sense. But where there's holes now, so how do those gaps be filled? Because I think, as we met through our time and our process, we sort of, kind of figured out what some of those holes might be and started to try to fill them. But now what? And what is the expectations? I guess I just have more questions because I do feel that it's unrealistic to basically have these high expectations, like miraculously everything was going to change, and all of these opportunities and the cost of it, all these were going to be addressed when, I mean, obviously by nature of government, it takes a lot more time. So, I mean, that's my question, I guess.
Are you generally posing that or posing that to me specifically?
Just throwing it out there, kind of like, what does everybody expect?
Yeah.
Because again, it's like we were starting to get some momentum, and it was things were starting to become clear through some trial and error and understanding the constraints that we have. Case in point, what Greg was, and everybody else was able to do, just bringing that idea, like that was just a brainstorm. And we were able to, make that happen, through everybody's hard work. But, I guess, when you say, can we come back? I'm like, that would be great. But at what would the expectations be? Yeah, right.
What or how?
Well,
Yeah.
my concern when she started to say about speed was just, we have 18 like lives in the balance, and it's been a couple of weeks since the verdict came down, and it must suck to come to work every day and not go home and not know how many more days you have a job or where your job is. And I think having a plan and a priority, I mean, that should be within days.
Having a
Like,
plan for the agency.
Or the people that work in the agency, like,
Yeah, so I met with the team this morning. It's as we described, it's not as simple as us saying 16 of you go here and 4 of you go here. It because most of our positions are civil service, so there's a process. We can expedite certain things under contracts, but that's its own governmental process. So I wish it was that easy. But we're trying within our own limitations to make it as quickly as possible. And I get it.
still 18 people, local
Right.
people.
I don't,
I get the bureaucracy, but the real lives.
that's the point we
It's
made. to the
easier when
city-
you're not that close to it because it's just somebody.
Well, I mean, that's the
It's
point we made to the
these
city
buddies.
council. We made that point to the city council. These are 18 real people doing real jobs who care about their jobs. So that was not heard. And we're doing the best we can at this point.
At the last meeting, Councilmember Wire actually asked each one of the employees in the audience to come up to the microphone and introduce themselves and talk about what they do. And so the council got to see firsthand who these people are.
Can you explain why the 6-week shorter timeline for the employees to be employed? Like, if there's money to end of September, why is it winding down by mid-August?
Yeah, so it's not that everyone's gonna lose their jobs mid-August. It's that we want to wrap up all the operations, the things that we do, figure out the transfers, figure out the handoffs by mid-August. Anybody who's in the process of applying for a job within the city will keep on, because it's much easier to hire when somebody's already in the system once they're out of it. So I just want to be clear, it's not that everyone's gonna get terminated mid-August. That is not what we're doing.
Can I jump in for a couple of questions? Yeah. Yeah, how realistic is, given the civil service pathway, that we're gonna find homes for most of our staff? That's
Yeah,
the first
the
question.
the truth of it is most of it will probably pivot to a contract in the short term, because that's much faster. And then try to figure out moving them into a civil service position if that's what they want.
Okay. And then what about all of the work that OER has done? So like, are we gonna shut down the Oahu Business Connector, for example? Like those go dark in August as well?
Oahu Business Connector is not going dark, but each of those programs, one by one, we have to sit and talk about it and figure out how we support or if we support.
Okay.
I guess I have a related question. So if they haven't elected to continue in the city, do they stop work in mid-August or September?
If they do not want to stay in the city, then it'd be mid-August.
And then for the folks that were continued to have funding, was it sort of, did they have a say or like asked like what makes sense, or was it just sort of like, we got a place and go?
It was for the people who do have
Yeah, so
general
the
funding.
community equity liaisons, the two program managers, and then like, where does the director live?
Yeah, no, I'm glad you asked that question because that came up this morning. It was largely a function of what made sense because these roles have to make sense in a new part of the city.
Mm.
So the ag one, for example, was relatively easy. That made only sense at OCCSR. The individual has a choice of whether she wants to apply elsewhere in the city or go with that role. Community equity liaison made the most sense to us at Department of Community Services. This is sort of what they do. And the department director was welcoming and willing. Later, a question was raised, both OCCSR and Mayor's Office of Culture and Arts sort of put their hands up and said, hey, we would like a community equity liaison person.
Mm.
And then the discussion becomes, well, you know, there's a 3-person team and they're going to do a 3-person team worth of work as a team. If we take one off and send them elsewhere, what does that do to the team's ability to function? And so there's discussions like that. So, but we did not sit down with each person and say, where would you like to go? What makes sense to you? We didn't do that.
Okay, thanks.
Sure.
I think my question too is besides my first question, obviously, is the team that's, you know, what's gonna happen, but also what is the impact that we can make as a commission with all of these changes? And I think that that's something we all need to really kind of think about. And I don't know the answer.
I think maybe one thing I'm gonna think out loud because that's how I think. And sorry, it's my first meeting, so this is all the ball. Not a stranger to departments being defunded, unfortunately. So I've had to think through some of this and contract wind downs and things like that. But I guess one thing I am thinking about to that point about the community equity liaisons acting as a team, but yet the like OER functions are getting mapped out in different departments, right? So ag is going to Oscar, right? So it's already distributed. And I'm just trying to think about like, how do we create impact if we're already distributed, right? And then we didn't get to director and where director lives and one's under the MD's office. And so, yeah, I'm just also trying to play the puzzle game.
We are too.
Because I think like, again, I'm still learning and catching up, but like even the community equity liaisons were responsive to the needs of their communities, right? And they were very different in the needs that I think the communities had. And so as a block, I get sort of the logical piece of that, but then I'm also thinking like having done community work, like I'm sure the like sort of COFRA population has very different needs than Hawaiian or others. And so, yeah, the thing that those communities might need might live in a different department, I guess. And I might just be naive in what DCS does, but yeah. I just want to make sure that there's some nuance to that. And then I also like, if there's anything we could as a county do to communicate our care and our aloha for them through this like rough transition. I think I want to build on what you were saying, is like, there's real people. How do we treat them with the humanity and dignity that they deserve?
I just have an obvious question, like, does OER, like with the next administration, is that something that would have automatically been going into the next administration? Is that how that would work? Like as far
If this
as,
hadn't happened,
if this hadn't happened, would it continue on to the next administration?
it's
It's
in the,
charter.
it's in the charter.
Oh,
It's continuing on now.
So we each roll at a different time, so it'd be like for Supreme Court justices. So maybe I would fall off. The new mayor would put someone else in.
oh, God, okay.
Yeah, so both the entity and this commission are in charter.
Oh, okay.
They didn't amend the charter, right?
No.
It's still the same.
Nothing about the charter.
OER is
change.
in the charter, the commission is in the charter.
The
Which
follow
still
that
means a
we do.
mandate exists.
I think that we've never viewed ourselves as having a lot of authority. I think when we started out, it was agreed we were more advisory, so we didn't take initiative really. We helped OER mostly. I don't know if that was correct, you know, maybe we could have taken more authority, but I guess my question or just thought is, can we reinvent OER going forward? Right?
That
I
goes to
mean,
your
we have to
question.
get through all of these current situations in a positive way, because otherwise it will probably never happen. But, you know, it's like, it's a bad analogy, but Japan after the war, right?
Mhm.
It started from scratch and it sort of overtook everybody else because they started new. So just looking forward to the next stages, is there an opportunity to think about, well, what could it be? Versus, you know, we need to lick our wounds now, but beyond that, because I think OER continues as a commission. They can't get rid of us.
On the
Well, they
mandate
can.
We're
It's
sort of
interesting,
in the charter.
As they were defunding OER, they're confirming a new commissioner.
Yeah.
Like the whole thing just didn't make all that much sense.
Trust me, I asked in every meeting.
My sense was that they want OER to be reinvented. Just, I'm looking at the big
What-
picture. I wasn't at the actual hearing,
Using
so.
your legal expertise, if there's a series of commissioners with no staff, do we have any authority to do anything? Do we just meet once a quarter and
Well,
check the
we have as
box?
much authority as we did before, which was really none. We're advisory. You know, we're supposed to come up with a
But we're
business plan.
advisory to a team that actually did stuff.
Yeah.
Well, it's not contingent
Maybe
in charter.
maybe we could do this kind of thing, and it's like next quarter, it's happening.
Well, I think you could go back to the council with a plan to say, well, okay, here's 2.0, and this is our budget, and you need to fund us. And I mean, we can't just go back to the same old because we're going to be in the same place, right?
But we
So-
can't propose the exact same
So
structure.
I think there's opportunity to do something. I mean, we have to give it time to heal and get over this. But as I look forward, what I was hearing just from the news reports is that they didn't like what was being done, and so they wanted to clean house and they want to restart. That's the big picture that I saw. I could be totally off, but you know,
Well,
we.
when
it's
I
our
hear
prerogative
like
to
six
do that.
different people with six different reasons, I land on one reason, which is this was a, we're a political puck. And we lost a political
I
match.
didn't hear the restart part, I'm not gonna lie, in any of it. I heard that put it into other departments and do work that's similar, but it's not in one
I
place.
heard somewhere, it was Okimoto or somebody said something, but whether they said it or not, we can restart. It's not just their decision, right? I mean, and I think the way you gather the forces is to come up with a vision that everyone can get behind somehow. You know, one thing about OER that I've noticed, I mean, there's so many things going on, right? It's hard to really pin down what is OER. We just do a lot of stuff and we see what sticks, you know, but maybe they want more focus or something. I don't know. Anyway, my question, is there opportunity to do something going forward in your mind?
So I appreciate what you're saying and I agree with what you're saying. And I do think there's an opportunity to start over. And right now you said, you mentioned that we need to lick our wounds or whatever, but it's very true. I mean, we asked them, what do you need us to fix? And we had every single organization out there that has a credible voice came in and spoke in favor of the agency. And so it's a little hard to figure out the logical path forward when this was so illogical to us. But yes, there's got to be a path forward, and then we just got to figure that out.
I think they're not the visionaries because, you know, that's why they have the jobs they have. But, you know, they're governmental governance people. So I think that if the agency comes in with some vision about what it can do, then you have to sell the idea to them. And then they have to come along, right? But it doesn't start with, what do you want us to do? That's kind of going the wrong way, actually. If they didn't like what we did, that's their prerogative, right? To do whatever. But hopefully, if it does restart, they will like the next iteration, which will be standing on the shoulders of what's already been done. So it's not like you just throw it out. It's a building process. Right? So it's kind of like asking a venture capitalist, you know, what should I do? They don't know. It's the startup guys that know. It's entrepreneurs that know what to do. And then they come to the VCs. Oh yeah, I'll give you money for that. You know, the VCs don't have the right ideas.
To the chair's point, though, there are some council members who've expressed some version of that's the state's work.
Hmm.
So there are gonna be some who maybe aren't on board with the concept.
But that's not 6 of them, right?
I don't know. I don't think it's 6 of them.
What about like, okay, in the news also at the same time is the acquisition of Eva Lay, you know, and all of that moving forward. Maybe something tangible like that, like, okay, we'll stay in the city and maybe there's some opportunity there because that's the future, right? And they're talking about what all that things it's gonna bring. So I don't know. Just an
It
idea.
could be a vision, like we could be a SWAT team that collaborates with the city's already doing to make it more innovative.
Mhm.
Right. I mean, I don't know, I'm just throwing it out there, but
Yeah.
there's different ways you can look at what we do.
I guess my question would be then, hypothetically, if the commission continued, it would be us directly communicating with the council. Because we won't have.
Is that a
Amy.
question? Like, who do we?
I know, I'm trying to understand it.
We
like,
would,
logistically.
and the managing director's office would work with
Okay.
the commission directly.
Okay. Interesting, okay.
But the director is still funded, right?
The director position is different.
I mean, the director doesn't have to stay, but I mean, that's a funded position, right?
It is.
And is that position going under your office?
It is.
Okay.
Well, it was already in your office, right?
Yeah, it's a budgeting organization, but yes, it's within the managing director's office.
Hi, everybody. Sorry, I couldn't be there in person. Just a quick question. If the kind of functions of the department are being split out now among different departments, is there a need for the expertise of this commission to also be split out among different departments and provide whichever departments are holding these functions the input that we've been providing directly to OER? Whether that be done on a collective basis or just maybe on an individual basis.
That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that. The idea was that the functions, the positions would go to different departments where they best fit. And they would continue doing the work that they were going to do this year under the guidance, support, and supervision of those departments. And I don't know enough about how much you all weighed in on the community equity liaison work, for example, or how much you weighed in on the ag program manager's work, or I don't know how that worked. And I don't know if you'd want that opportunity to keep track of and support and give guidance to.
Yeah, it's a really functional question, right? Like as a body, we oversaw an office and that was much cleaner. And so now it's like you sort of have an MD, a director who works for the MD, and the other departments where these folks are getting placed, like, you know, Director Fox or whomever, but yeah. So it's kind of like, yeah, do you sort of give a point person to the thing?
We're making an assumption that there is a director, but although it's funded, is the mayor's intention to staff the position?
That's a discussion between Amy and Mayor.
I guess my other question is if what is, and I don't think you know the answer to this, but what is the council's intention for the commission at this point? Because at this point, I mean, I sat through all of the meetings. I had to answer a lot of difficult questions. I am not sure that I fully understand that they realize we don't know where our spot is now in this point in time. I'm not sure that that was thought through, but I also don't want to proceed further and assume to know what they want because clearly we do not. And so I feel like somehow that has to be a conversation. What do they foresee for the commission?
Yeah, I don't mean this to sound rude. I think it'll end up sounding a little bit rude. I don't think what they want for the commission is as germane as the commission is in the charter.
Yeah.
And so you all can make of it and what we can make of it with you all. It's not like they can pay you all less, right?
I don't know, that's zero.
I mean, there are realities about not having an agency to work with and not having the team. There are realities about that, but I don't think it's a question of council, do you want to disband this? That's not a discussion that I would ever have.
No, I don't think so much as do they want to disband us, but what are their expectations? Because one expectation was the strategic plan, right? We didn't do that, and they were very upset about that. We didn't do it in time for them. So if we are to continue forward, how do we kind of contain their expectations and really identify what we are supposed to do? Because the strategic plan is not going to work at this point, the way it's written.
That's right.
So I don't think you know the answer to the
I
question,
don't.
but
You're right.
yeah.
It's weird to try to be innovative and yet manage their expectations when they don't clearly communicate expectations. But how do you be innovative? So what, you're gonna be innovative in a cage? You know, like that's not that's not thinking out of the box. And so if the purview of this commission was to sort of see things from a different way, to move forward, I mean, I feel like that's probably what we're supposed to do, but who do we communicate that to? And if they want, I mean, it's sort of like it's a strange thing because the idea would be like, let's not stay here. Let's, see the visions going like this, and I don't know.
I mean, this commission is attached to an agency, right? They're both in the charter, so I think we would work hand in hand to figure out what that agency is, and then hand in hand, we would then go to council and say, this is 2.0 then. You guys didn't like 1.0. That's a path forward.
We're probably gonna be kind of dormant. Because we could keep meeting, but then we have no one that's gonna listen to us. We can just talk amongst ourselves and do what we want, but
Well, I enjoy
under
talking.
the
about
charter,
it.
we're supposed to be working with OER, so, right? We don't really have a choice. But
Is it pedantic of me to say that the office still exists, but it has no bodies? Do you know what I mean? Like fundamentally, the charter preserves its existence and what it's supposed to work on. And the council just said, well, we're not going to give you money to pay people to do anything in it except for the 5. Right. And so, yeah, it's a gutting, but it's not, it still exists. So like how we use our words, I think is important for us to consider too, because I think there's some defeatism that I'm hearing, like maybe it's inner critic kind of thinking, but like, again, the charter exists, the mandate exists, there are 5 positions, and that is not the ideal, but fundamentally it does exist. And I think we're still kind of talking about it like, is it dead? Are we done? Are we leaving? Like, yeah.
No, I appreciate you raising that because that was how I intended to start discussion, was give us some time to figure this back end out, and then we want to re-engage with you all on the next.
I think the other thing too I'm thinking about is like, my first priority is you all, the staff. How do we treat you with the humanity and dignity you deserve? And then I think the second priority for me as a commissioner is how do we not lose the focus on the client, on the constituents, on the community members of this county who we are in service of. And right now, I think a lot of it has been mechanics and politics and all the sort of like statute stuff. But again, like I'm thinking about the business connector, I'm thinking about the momentum you lose when you shut it down and then restarting it. It's kind of like the electrical grid, right? It's like, it's not easy to pump back up and keep going. It's easier to maintain than it is to shut and restart. So if there is ARPA funding, that could become contract-based work. It may not have civil service positions that got defunded, but you might be able to keep certain priority things alive in this process of figuring ourselves out. So recap, how do we treat the employees with the dignity and humanity that they deserve? How do we, again, sort of think about like the people we serve, and that's the residents of the city and county of Honolulu. And then 3, it's some of the like what needs to stay alive or stay awake so that it's not harder to re-stand up later.
we have to give it time. Can't solve everything today. I
Sure.
was throwing out the idea of reinventing ourselves in the future.
Sure.
It's hard to do that when there's people in the room who's losing their jobs, right? I mean,
Mhm.
we're all humans. So I don't disagree. We got to take care of that first.
Yeah.
But also have some hope that maybe there's a light at the end of the tunnel, right? I mean, I'm entrepreneurial. I always look at the to my detriment, probably look at the upside, but, you know, down the road, there might be an opportunity to do something, you know. So we should all, as commissioners, I'd be looking at that, looking forward and thinking, what can we do better? You know, I feel bad as commissioner that we didn't do enough, frankly. I didn't know that we're supposed to do a strategic plan. I mean, I should have read the resolution more than once, you know, but that,
Well, we did know. We talked about it in the beginning of the.
oh, right.
Yeah, we did know. And we were advised by Corporation Council that we could adopt the SEDS
Mhm.
as our strategic plan, and we all read that and agreed
Yeah.
that that was appropriate. The auditor disagrees with that assessment from the Corporation Council. So,
Well, it's just me then. I was not really paying attention to that, you know. So I think there are things we've learned, you know. Experience is what you get when you don't get what you want. So, you know, what the key is, what did we learn from it? And how can we do better if it does continue?
You know, like August is next week, right? It's like right there. And so, you know, we're talking about people that have, you know, 2 weeks of like semi-certainty for 2 weeks, but what else? How is the transition going for everyone? And, you know, you know, I don't know. I mean, how many places have you been able to place, or how many, you know, I know there's a lot of different places where people can go within government, but it's also, you know, is it what they want to do too? You know, like, you know, I don't know. So, I mean, for the rest of the staff, like, how has it been?
I think that's the answer.
does anyone
I
online?
think
have-
in a time of crisis, you can't let the bureaucracy and the rules kind of, if this was your business, you would be like, screw that.
Right.
Like, you're going to this store, that store, you'd be like making stuff happen, be like, I'll just deal with the repercussions later.
Well, yeah, I mean, we do that all the time, you know, the staff needs help, we figure it out. You know? But it just seems odd. Seems odd that, you know, this is a discussion when we're talking about, you know, people leaving Hawaii because it's so the cost of living and whatever, and here we are, you know, people are losing their jobs for what? I mean, honestly, it's like, this should have been thought through in those terms.
Does anyone online have anything else that you guys wanted to add? Because I know we're almost at time.
Yeah, I got my hands up. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of with Greg on this one too. You know, I love to innovate and think differently, and so I think it's more like a challenge between the mayor and Amy to think through. Because I know you want to come back to us, but where's the gap given the resources, given the charter? I put in the chat like exactly what our charter is, and it's pretty clear. I think we checked that box in the first couple of meetings. You know, we did that with diligence. We reviewed all the plans out there, and we decided not to just add yet another one there. One was already created and aligned. And so I feel like we did a lot of the things that were there and then went beyond that. And so I kind of want to challenge you guys, like what is it that you see that we could make a difference given the resources that we have? And then we can sort of meet around that. You know, there are some big waves coming. You know, AI is coming. You know, I love the fact that we leaned into grants, and that's a part where the city really didn't do it enough, and just to go out and get other funding and support that. Is that something like there's got to be something there that you think might fit within the charter and our work that we can consider? So just wanted to share that.
I have one thought that I want to share, which is, we talked about this, but I think that OER should do what it's best suited to do as part of the city. You know, I know I threw the idea of an ombudsman and kind of got shut down, but you know, someone that'll lead a business through the city process to be like their champion. But then, you know, it's a little bit of a conflict of interest maybe. But my point is, what can the city do that it can do better than anyone else? Like, I'm not sure just a general incubator is the answer, but maybe it's incubator that's city related somehow. Because one advantage of city is we know the customers, we know the farmers, we know, you know, at the state level, they're a little bit more detached, right? So that would be my challenge, Olin, is to think about what can we do that we would do best at in Hawaii or in Honolulu? And those are the things that might be on the list, to-do list for the next 2.0. I don't have the answer to that, but I think there are things that only the city can do best. And that's what it should stick with. Like a startup, you know, what can you do better than anyone else? That's how you win. So
Lou and Melly, anything else?
Was there?
Oh.
Go ahead, Millie.
Okay, I have two things going. Okay, hold on. Okay, I'll take that one out. Okay, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I mean, I would echo it's incredibly frustrating. I mean, the sheer fact that we're the only, municipality or large city that doesn't have an economic development office, and for a long time, the office was a propped up, ridiculous thing that only did road closures for street festivals for a long time is, insane. Um, and it is unfortunate. I think a lot of the great work of this commission and this group bringing so many great folks together. So, I mean, I do hope that we can continue to show that this is important, and ideally something can come up in the future. But in the meantime, we obviously have very immediate needs with staff and other folks. And of course, that's my main area is economic development. So I'm very frustrated and a little bit really pissed off actually about how all of this went down. So I do hope we can hopefully get something going in the future and keep working with Holomu and other folks that are trying to push things forward. So I just want to share my frustration and how absolutely ridiculous this is.
Yeah, and I just want to add, like, I have to tell you guys, having been in the process the entire time, we all felt a little beat up. I'm sure Amy and Deb more than most, but I mean, I was feeling beat up and discouraged throughout this process. I mean, some of the conversations that we're having was just really discouraging. So yes, Melly, agreed. I'm pissed off too. But also, to Greg's point, we got to channel that into something positive, right? I don't know what that is, but
This bullet A, like, what is are we supposed to land somewhere? Or are we just like venting? Is there like an actual objective to get to?
Well, so the ask is the same. Give us some time to figure out what's going on. Let's meet again and then we can talk more. We just don't know. We're focused on what's happening right now. I know you're unhappy with how we're treating our team. I get it. You wish we could go faster. I do too. This is our team. But just give us some time to ask.
Maybe if I could make an ask and then an offer,
Please.
MD, like if there's some nuance that can be applied in how they're placed, I think that would be my first ask. And then my offer is if I can be of personal help in the best ways that I can as a commissioner, whether it's facilitating conversations or what, I'm willing to do that work and get my hands dirty.
Appreciate that. Could you explain what you mean by nuance? I'm not.
Yeah, so like, again, so noting like if there was clear alignment for the ag project manager to go to Oscar OFCCSR, sorry, I was screw up the acronyms, but okay, fine. But then with the community liaisons, I think my community-based work has always sort of been one where I noticed the nuance and the needs of those communities. And given that those roles are focused on different communities, if there are departments or areas of government that make the most sense that they can still continue that work, because I think they're getting treated as a block. Right? They're just community equity liaisons and they all do the same thing. And I don't know if that's true. Yeah. So the nuance there of like, if one community needs something and it's best served by DCS, awesome. If there's a different community that is needed and it can be best served through Oscar, awesome. Or it stays in MD or whatever it is, just that nuance of not treating it as a block.
I understand what you're saying.
Thanks.
I mean, this is terrible having this conversation and the frustration and, the Monday morning quarterbacking of what went down in front of employees who I don't know how many of you are affected by this. And it's just hard to have this conversation in front of y'all and, with this uncertainty and even talking about like, well, what is 2.0 gonna look like when all of you have contributed so much of your time and energy and commitment into what was already in place and not to get a chance to evolve with the strategic plan that was nearly there. Um, I don't know. I have a hard time having this conversation in front of y'all, knowing like if there was ways that we could have potentially been more successful, or if there wasn't any kind of political kind of agenda driving these decisions that were completely out of your folks' control. So just naming the humanity of that and just it weighs. But there are things in that strategic plan that can be built from. And you have a brain trust of folks who know economic development and who know community. And to Melly's point, like this is a major city that does not have an economic development like function like a solid one. And it's embarrassing for Hawaii. It's embarrassing for the city for us to not have that. We can do better and be able to articulate a value proposition for this agency that is undeniable. I can weather some of these political shifts in the wind, because our communities need it, and we have. If we are going to really look at this again, or continue to look at this and evolve it and innovate off of it, like really looking at the assets of this place and other people in ways for economic development that really align with who we are and what we have, instead of trying to be like other places. I think that's the advantage that we have. And the thing that I was really excited about the strategic plan was the integration function and the efficiency that could be created across departments and collaborations that can be done better. Because on the outside, working when we work with collaborative agency work, stuff actually gets done really, really well. But you have to invest in that function. And for us not to get the chance to invest in that function here is the thing that is super frustrating, on top of the pain and the heart, like the hurting of my heart that freaking employees who just committed everything that they had and like just get the rug pulled out under them with weeks. I know I just saying some things and it's not really an answer. And, I think, giving you folks the time, like what does figuring it out look like? Because like, I don't want to be on indefinite pause. Like if you want to let these horses go and let us like come up with something, like we gotta know. Cause like we have lives, we have busy things to do, and having uncertainty like of a time period of figuring it out is gonna be really hard on us. So like understanding like what figuring it out means and what that time frame looks like would be really helpful, I think, for us to stay committed to this.
And then I think maybe I would just add that to help you folks assess and make a better decision, I'm in. I made a commitment to serve and I'll fulfill my term so long as I'm wanted. So if that's a piece of the calculus that needs to be done, just know I'm in.
Yeah, like the city has to do economic development. It has to. And we're already here, we're on board, like give us something to work on.
Especially with the U Hero report that just came out. I mean, it couldn't be more timely how important this is. Like upward economic mobility, the fact that we don't have that here and we're the worst place in the nation to do business. I mean, there's like a million different arrows pointing at why this is so important.
And El Niño.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Well,
Andy.
storms and we don't have the infrastructure, so it makes sense.
I know we don't have dinner. That's good.
Yeah,
We're
I'm adjourning the meeting.
Second.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah, very time to sign.
Thank you all.
Commissioner.